everybody, welcome to another episode of Car Addiction. How do you like my fedora? I don't know if I'm a big fan of this as of yet, because it's a little chilly and a lot of air goes through, and because I'm bald, I feel cold. If this is your first time in my channel, I'm a huge Nissan enthusiast. I got an R32 Skyline, a couple of 300ZX twin turbo, and MR2, I don't know why I have that, Xterra, which is a big giant pain, and that's that. If you're 21 years old and under, please stop, watch a cat video, talk to a female, because being a car enthusiast is expensive. It's more expensive than having a house full of crackheads. Today I wanted to talk to you about something special. We all know the future of automotive is going to be electric. I'm sorry it's not going to be gas anymore or diesel. I wanted to talk to you about the Tesla, and basically we wanted to attack this from a car enthusiast point of view, because the owner of this Tesla is a good friend of mine who is an owner of a fantastic 300ZX twin turbo. He's doing north of 600 wheel horsepower, and then his daily driver is a Tesla. So let's hear him out. Let's see why he moved to a Tesla as a daily driver over a conventional gas vehicle. All right, we're in the car. We're wearing these stuff in our face. Fortunately, we're still in that time frame. My good friend Brian, he's a car enthusiast. He is one of my 300ZX buddy. He literally lives about 20 minutes from my house, and he is the guy who successfully convinced me that my next daily driver should be a Tesla.
You will be assimilated.
And I am very close, very close. I just probably need a little bit more pushing, but I am close. I will, because the way he explained it to me, it just made sense. So let's start by asking you, what do you do for a living?
Simple answer, I'm a photographer, but I'm an industrial photographer, which means I focus mainly on construction, real estate, and I'm also a licensed drone pilot.
I need that. I need to get my hobbyist license.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to need your help on that.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's talk about your 300ZX. Just a wee bit.
Just a wee bit?
Yeah.
It's actually a funny story how I got it. You got to really understand who I am to really get that. And I know you're not really going to get that in the video, but this is my 45th car. That includes 11 Supras of different generations. It includes...
You had 11 Supras.
I've had 11 Supras.
Shit.
Right? 11 Supras. I've had 2 Mark 4s, a whack of Mark 3s, and my very first car ever was actually a Mark 2.
The Celica Supra?
Yeah.
Oh,
Celica
man.
Supra, yeah. It was white,
That's
burgundy
so
leather, digital dash.
You showed us a picture.
Oh, man. 14-inch wheels with oversized tires.
Yeah.
With balloon-like tires. I have a condition, and I've never told you. It's not contagious.
Okay.
But I have vehicular ADD. When I get bored of a car, it's gone. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'll sell it, buy it, trade, whatever the case may be. So for me, I know what I want to feel when I want to feel it. There are times where I want a very tactile car, and there's times where I want, something that's really chill. So
have you ever owned one of those cars which behaves like a boat?
No. No. But when you say
like
boat,
Buick LeSabre.
Yeah. So my dad actually had a Buick Riviera, so that's what I learned how to drive on.
Okay.
And then I converted over to my brother's M3, which I must have been.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should even say this on camera, but...
It's hypothetical.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, I was too young to drive, and I was driving myself to school every day. So little things like that are...
So, I'm born and brought up in Bangladesh, and my father was in the military for 29 years. For him to teach me driving, or actually to buy me my first car, his condition was the day you can sit and your leg reaches to the bottom of the clutch.
So you understand.
You can drive, and I'll get you a car.
Yeah.
And it was about grade 8 when I could do that properly.
Yeah.
And he bought me a 68 Publica.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a 68 Toyota Corolla.
Okay.
The plush version was called Publica, which there's no plush about it.
Oh, you fancy.
Oh yeah. There was nothing plush about it. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I was in grade 8. I would go to school. Now, I learned how to ride a bike when I was in grade 5 because again, I could sit and I could touch everything when I was in grade 5.
Yeah. There you go. I agree with you.
Yeah, and but you learned it in the M3, man.
I learned in an M3, really manual. By the time it came time for me to legally go and do my driver's lessons,
Yeah.
I remember the instructor sitting there and explaining the concept of a clutch, and I sat there quietly, and she said, okay, so I want you to ease off the clutch, and I dumped the clutch, put the car sideways, and just took right off. She was screaming, thinking that I did it by accident until the very first corner where I back it in, and drifted around, I pulled a handbrake, and she's like, get out of the car right now. How do you know how to do that at your age? And I said, racetrack?
Racetrack?
She was very understanding.
All right. Well, hey, as long as you passed.
There you go. I definitely passed.
All right.
We spent the time just basically driving around, going to restaurants in Montreal back in those days, right?
Yeah. So you grew up in Montreal?
Born and raised in Montreal, came to Toronto in 1997 after the second referendum.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. That's 97. Toronto was tiny.
97 Toronto was different. Like I live in an area now of Brampton, not too far from you, where realistically to drive from Toronto to Brampton was a mission. Yeah. Right, farmland, the whole nine. Now everything is developed.
So let's go back to the 300.
Done. Done. My 300, I traded for it. Yeah, you're a little shocked. So I came from the car world into the motorcycle world and went back into the car world by taking my Yamaha R1 and I traded it for a 240 with an SR swap, but it hadn't been put together. So it was the engine sitting on the
You told me about the 241.
That's right. It was an S13.
Yeah.
Traded for that. I put it together. Drove it for a little while, but I hated the 240 community. But
the sun240.org.
Yeah, man. The nice thing about having a 240 though is you have drift tax, 240 tax.
Yeah.
So I sold it at a massive profit over what I could have got for my motorcycle. And I bought a 2+2 300 that had rust in it. I had a friend of mine weld it all together, made that look relatively nice, and then I realized I found a twin turbo up in Wasaga Beach for $5,000. The guy posted it.
Which year was it?
It's a 1990.
No, I know, but which year did you pick up your car?
3 years ago.
Really?
3 years ago, yeah.
You did all of that stuff in 3 years?
In 3 years. And 1 year, the car sat there with nothing being done to it because I broke my hand and couldn't work on it. So really, I did it all in a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah. You guys are probably going to see some footage of it. Hopefully you like it.
Wow. You poured off your wallet in that one, man. I'm sorry.
I actually didn't. I didn't. So I approach cars, even though it's a bad financial decision, in my mind, because of the stupid decisions that I've done over the years. The dumbest one was the last Mark IV that I had.
You sold it?
I sold it in 1997. I moved here with it. And the difference in insurance between Montreal and Toronto was massive. So I went from paying $3,000 a year on insurance to $17,000 a year.
That is dumb.
Yeah, very stupid. So I sold the car to Peter Farrell Supercars in Miami, Florida. He has driven it 1 more kilometer than when I gave it to him, and he refuses to sell it back to me. The car was fully done, 750 horses to the rear wheels. It was an absolute monster. The body kit, though, is a little dated. It was one of those Veilside Blitz kits.
Yeah, you can always... Yeah.
During the time it was cool. Now, you'd probably want to cut that stuff off.
With all that history, what convinced you to be electric?
A series of things. You heard me say that I believe in approaching it very scientifically. So $1 for horsepower. I don't care what engine is in it. I don't care if the engine matches the actual vehicle, because our predecessors, hot rodders, didn't care. Whatever worked, they put it in the car, and that's that. When I look at big horsepower guys, they have a Ford, but they have an LS swap in it because it just plain made sense. So for me, it was...
Twin turbo LS.
There you go. There you go. For me, it was, what can I drive daily? Because I can't drive my 300 every single day. Actually, I do, but...
In summertime, you do.
In summertime, I do, yeah.
I saw him a couple of times, because I drive in 401 for my work, and I saw him driving a couple of times, and I texted him, I see you.
Very recognizable color, too.
It's hard to miss. Yeah. And he's not driving like someone should. Yeah,
we'll just say that.
Yeah.
I use the car. But for me, it was, what vehicle can I get that has a certain level of performance for a certain cost and hurt me the least because it's a daily driver? So before this car, I had a E55 supercharged V8. It was a 5.4. But for me to drive from...
I love that.
There you go.
That's
the M113 engine?
Yeah, M113.
Masterpiece.
So I had an S55 AMG.
Okay.
The M113 without the supercharger.
There you go, sir.
293K.
There you go.
But I could still shift at $6,000, nothing.
There you go. If I could find another one, I would buy another E55 right now, hands down. But it would be a project car, because this for me is, right?
Yeah, I understand,
At the end of the day, it became, for me to drive from Erin to see a client, and then drive out to Oshawa to see another client, and then down to downtown Toronto. An E55 with 600 horses has a total gas consumption of 320 kilometers the way I drive.
Yeah.
Probably another individual might be able to get more, but I have a problem. I like to mash the skinny pedal. And this was the most logical decision to get very little, if not no maintenance, the highest horsepower for the dollar. And from a fuel consumption standpoint, it's almost nothing. So every morning I wake up, I have a full tank of gas,
juice,
and off I go. Yeah. I'm going to try and say gas and gas pedal because it's what people are going to understand. But nerd boys who drive Teslas, we say the accelerator.
The accelerator. Electrons. What baffles me is just where he came from and where he is heading. The honest truth is, 10 years from now on, I don't care what kind of enthusiast you are, we will be forced to be heading that way.
Yes.
It's
Indeed.
not an option. It's gonna happen. Like all the big companies, GM, Ford, Toyota, they're all pointing towards that way. So
I don't really think they've been given a choice. Most governments around the world have mandated a certain amount of electric vehicles per fleet by 2024 or 2025. Don't quote me on that. So you're seeing these companies announce this as if they're being progressive. They're not being progressive. They're being forced. Their hand is being forced. Now, the challenge that I have is, and I'm not making fun of anyone, it's when someone bags on an electric car. Oh, it doesn't have any feel. Oh, it has no personality. I'm going to tell you that it's different. It does have a personality. You just are not used to what it does. And most of the folks who do communicate that way have either A, never driven in one, B, never driven it at all.
Full disclosure, I was somebody like that until he took me on a ride, and I was supposed to make a video that day. I couldn't. So I came in the car, with the phone, and while getting in, I dropped it on the floor, and he got out of my driveway and just smashed. Well, it was my first time in a Tesla, and it was something. Like, the phone flew somewhere in the back, and then, we went through the whole ride, and I'm like, okay, I guess there was no video. So today, I mounted it. Okay.
Nice. It's mounted.
It's mounted. It's not going to go away from my hand.
Yep.
Hopefully.
There you go.
The next I want to ask is, why this one?
Great question. So originally when we were trying to select an electric car, remember it's dollar for horsepower. So I could go and I can grab a Model S. In those days it was called the P100D for performance, 100 battery capacity, D dual motor. But the cost of that was astronomical. It didn't make sense from a financial standpoint to have that as a daily driver. That would tap me out. I'm not Mr. Moneybags. If I were to choose a Model 3, for me it had to be top of the line. It had to be something that had performance in it for me to be entertained. I hadn't driven anything. I hadn't experienced anything electric. I just knew that I wanted to try it. And in all honesty, it was going out to the Tesla store. I walked in, and I'm going to say something blasphemous for you guys, but at the time my wife had come back from work and she saw a modded 911, and she knows that that's my car.
Yeah.
And she turns to me when she came home and she goes, "Do you want to buy a 911?" And I said, I would actually rather buy a really good daily driver and later on get a 911, because I don't feel like I deserve it yet, even though I can afford it. There's just certain things for me. So this was me walking into Tesla, and I asked the Tesla guy, "Look, is there anyone here who's a car enthusiast?" "Oh, I like cars." A car enthusiast wouldn't say that.
No.
So I said, "Next." And he went into the back and he brought out this guy. I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
Desi came out, turban on, and he goes, "Hey, I heard that you wanted to talk cars." I'm like, "Yeah, man, I need to tell you something that is going to sound absolutely bat poop crazy."
Yeah.
My wife and I agreed that it's time that we can buy a 911, and I'm actually thinking of buying a daily driver. And I'm standing in a Tesla store, so you know what I'm thinking. And he's like, "Model 3 performance." And I went, "Why?" He goes, "Horsepower the same, cost of ownership. The Porsche will be here and you will be here. Enjoyment, if you're the guy who I think you are, you swap out your brakes and you swap out your suspension, and I would challenge you to find anyone that can touch you on the track." And I looked at him and my eyes got really small, and I said, "Do you realize what you're saying? Like, really, do you realize what you're saying? We're talking about a 997.2. And he goes, "Tell you what," he looks over his left shoulder, over his right shoulder, and in those times Tesla wasn't really giving people cars overnight. I was one of the first. Really? He took my driver's license, he gave me the card, which I'll show you guys later on, but he gave me the Tesla card, which is like the key. And he goes, "You're going to take this for 24 hours, and I want you to drive this like it's yours. I don't want you to be nice. I don't want you to be pleasant with it. Beat the absolute snot out of it.
Damn.
And when you come here, my pen will be ready."
That guy is one of a hell of a salesman.
Yeah, man. We went out for a quick little drive, and I was driving with respect.
Yeah.
and he sat in the passenger seat and he punched me in the shoulder and he goes, "I thought you were a car guy." Push it, test it. I'm here in the car to make sure that you don't do anything that the car can't do.
Yeah.
But I'm probably going to be pretty quiet. And I unleashed hell on that car in a very respectable way on the highway, adhering to all the rules of the road.
Absolutely.
And when we came back, he was a little straight. Yeah. He said, "Do you have a good idea of what the car's like?" And I said, "Yeah, but now I need to convince my wife." Went home, grabbed the wife. She hopped into the vehicle, and we both fell in love with it. The next day, signed the paper. 2 weeks later, bing.
It's awesome.
Car was there.
That's awesome. Let's talk about cost of ownership against a similarly priced gasoline.
In my mind, C63, M3, we're talking about cars with 4 doors, you're in that price range and ballpark. Performance-wise, we know what those cars can do. Straight line to straight line, horsepower is horsepower. I don't want anyone to think any differently. No. How you generate that horsepower is if it's usable or not. There are plenty of videos that have Hellcats, which we all know have 700 plus horsepower. But from a dig, they knock the tires off and it's a smoke show, even though theoretically they can tear you from limb, right? So I wanted something where it was usable power. It would be very difficult for me to find somebody that will beat me off a line. You would be blatantly obvious. We're talking about an exotic or a car with 700 plus horsepower. Like you would look really at it and know that
GTR or a Murcielago.
So looking at those cars, you know that you're in for a fight if you were fighting, which is illegal, so we're not actually fighting. But you're in that area. You're talking about an M4 at full tilt on a roll. That's a performance. The difference is I don't have to pay for premium fuel. I don't have to do oil changes. I don't have to worry about down pipes and upgraded injectors and this and that and the other. Everything in the car is done. It's prepped for you in a total package that says, here you go. Now, here's the hard part. The tuner in me says, I got my 300. Part of the fun is swapping out the injectors, taking it to the dyno, having it tuned. Hopefully you don't break on the dyno. You come home, you're chugging into your maps. This is the same thing, except it's done from the factory. The beauty of this, again, is the fact that it's done from the factory. I have a performance. I can put it in literally chill mode. You guys will see that later on. Or I can put it in sport mode, aka set to kill. It's completely up to me. I can decide that I want a rear wheel drive drift monster. I can decide that I want it to be all wheel drive and really chill. It's completely up to you. The difference is I can do that with a couple of touches because I care more about my fun than I do about the experience of having grease underneath my fingernails. I want that for my 300. I don't want that for my daily. And for me, this is my 300 in a daily.
That's one of the things that I actually try to follow too, because I try not to screw around with my daily.
That's right.
I'm a traveling salesman. You know, I need my car. For me to have my job, a stipulation is to have a reliable vehicle.
That's right.
So I can't make it unreliable. When he was trying to convince me on the Tesla, and that's one of the things in the back of my head was pinging, because I want something nice and fun and, you know, something that I can enjoy. But, you know, that also comes with a cost of less reliability, where I guess we're going to see in future is these electric vehicles will be able to provide, which we just didn't have.
That's right. The key is, at the end of the day, when people say that this doesn't have a soul, they're right. It's numb. It's digital. But that numbness in itself is a different experience. The fact that I am driving and I'm looking for visual cues instead of feeling the car, it is different. The fact that the car will rotate around a corner from a physics standpoint the same way, but from a feel standpoint very different, means that I have to pay attention more to feel what the car is doing by using visual cues. So I understand that someone says I can't feel it in the steering wheel, and my reaction is I am just looking for a new driving challenge, something that feels very different. And although I'm moving at the same speed, although the car can perform realistically in a similar manner, it's different, and that difference is what makes it extremely attractive. The fact that I wake up in the morning, it's February, it's looking at my calendar, and it's saying Brian needs to be in Oshawa for 9 a.m., which means he needs to leave the house at 8 a.m., which means the car needs to start charging at 4 a.m. so that I have a full charge, and that the temperature is at the temperature that I want it when I hop in. You work hard, I work hard, I believe that I deserve that. I don't want to be standing outside in a cold snap,
wiping do that every
snow.
day.
Really, at my age, I'm done. It sounds pretentious, but as you get older...
It would be nice to have it, because for all my viewers in the southern states, dude, it gets cold.
I hate you. I hate you.
Like sometimes when you're, scraping the ice and your balls hit each other and you hear a clunking noise, because they're frozen.
Yep.
As a daily driver, I don't think I will mind a Tesla Model 3 or something like that. Like,
Yep.
he is more a little concerned about the performance, where because I drive a lot, I will probably get a single motor, but I'll get a bigger battery.
There you go.
Because I'm more interested on the range than
I'll give you an example.
performance.
The thing that makes the performance Model 3 different to all the others, I mean, there's the standard range, rear-wheel drive, low range. There's the long range rear-wheel drive, there's the all-wheel drive, long range, then there's the performance. I gave up a little bit of range to have the performance. This car came with upgraded brakes. In my opinion, as tuners, we would upgrade those brakes again because it's still not enough for what the car could do. The second thing it came with is slightly lowered suspension compared to all the other Model 3 models. The last thing that it came with is obviously the little spoiler on the back. It doesn't matter. No, I think it's just a differentiator. But
it looks nice.
Right? When I drove a regular dual motor while this was being repaired one day, it was night and day. Personally, if I had to drive a regular Model 3, I would never buy it. If this one did not exist, right? The only reason that I bought this was because of its level of performance. Let me know if you want to know about the repair experience.
That will be another video. Shall we go for a drive?
Sure. All right. So as we approach the vehicle, it was technically on already. It knows that I'm in proximity, so it's prepared for, are you getting in or not? Are you getting in or not? Oh, he's not getting in, and it would turn itself back off. When you get used to an electric car and you stand next to it, you can... After a while, you get used to hearing the sound of it being on and turning on and the sound of it being in standby. Two different sounds.
Really?
Yep.
Is it just humming?
You'll hear a click and you'll hear a hum.
Okay.
Ooh, and then it'll go quiet. And that sound lets me know the car is turning on the AC, turning everything else on, preparing itself for driving. Right? So I just closed the door. Everything here in this section is like your multifunction display on any other vehicle. This would be like your navigation, your radio, your AC, etc. So we've just hopped in. Obviously, you can see, and again, this is kind of weird because this has just been upgraded overnight. This didn't look like this 12 hours ago. The layout is a little bit different. Same, but a little bit different. So like your phone, it upgraded overnight. And we have a couple new features and new things that I kind of got to get used to. So I put my foot on the brake, and you'll notice the drive indicators, just like you go into ACC mode when you turn the key. I put it in drive, and I'm going to press the pedal, the brake pedal, down even more. I'm technically in drive, and it's just holding itself, which means don't let the motors roll whatsoever. A little bit different from a regular car. I remember having a VW Passat years ago. They used to have a hold button in the center console, where if you were in traffic, you would just engage that hold so that it didn't roll while you're in traffic. This is just a slightly more intelligent version of that.
Interesting.
So the car's ready to go. I'll ask you to pop your seatbelt on for a quick set. Just because it's being recorded.
Well, for safety purposes only.
There you go. There you go. So right now you'll notice that it looks as if the taillights are on, and they definitely are. One of the most annoying things about Tesla drivers is we don't pay attention to some things sometimes. I try to be courteous to other drivers first and inconvenience myself before I inconvenience someone else. So when you take your foot off the accelerator, technically you can set the car to either roll, coast, to decelerate, or to decelerate heavily. As long as the Tesla starts to decelerate, change its speed, it will engage the brake lights to advise someone behind you that you are slowing down. So I put my foot on the brake again. It's telling me 0 kilometers. If I step on the accelerator, we're going to start driving. And forgive me, I have my winter tires on. One of them I need to top up a little bit. Tell you what, before I do that, let's go into that little menu really quickly.
You can actually see the PSI?
Yeah, you can
see
the PSI.
Not the Tesla tires, Tesla rims.
They're not, no. So I go this way, and once I turn the car on, that will be visible. But if I go into service, when I switch between my summer and my winter wheels, what I do is go right over here to wheel configuration, and I tell it what size wheel I'm running.
Oh, that's so cool,
and based on that, it will
adjust the calculations.
Adjust all the calculations. It'll take you about 2 drives before it gets it right, but it will also change the visual layout so that it matches exactly what you told it, provided you're driving Tesla wheels, right? So let's go for a quick little rip. So we put it in drive.